Okay, are you all ready for the last talk of the day? I know it sounds like, oh my God, I don't want to be here anymore, but it's just like, yes, it's been a full on day and we're all ready for some beer, right? Yeah. Okay, so we're all here to basically learn about playwrights. I'm going to ask you a few questions in a minute, but let's just first of all, I'll just do some introductions first. My name is Debbie O'Brien. I'm a senior program manager at Microsoft, and I basically I'm advocating for Playwright. So my job is to make sure the community of Playwright grows, that we have content, videos, everything that you need in order to learn Playwright and be successful in testing. So that's my job. Easy job, right? Yes. I'm an international speaker. I've spoken in many places, including Antarctica, which is my claim to fame. That was an amazing conference on a cruise ship in Antarctica. I'm a teacher, open source contributor. Playwright is open source, so you can all contribute to that as well. And you'll normally see me, if you follow me on Twitter at Debs_O'Brien, you'll see me like literally running, cycling, and doing sport all over the place. This is me running in Oslo the other day. It was a beautiful day. And yeah, I try to do about 3 hours of sport a day, which is something I know I can see you looking at me go, what? When I was locked up from COVID and we weren't allowed to even leave the apartment for 7 weeks, that was like hell. And then when we first got out to be able to do sport, we could do 2 hours of sport a day. And it made me realize that like the only person that's stopping me from doing what I want to do is me. The government stopped me in those times, but then it's me that's stopping me. And I was constantly saying, I want to do more sport, I want to do more sport, but why wasn't I not doing it? So now I kind of say, right, I get up in the morning, I do my 3 hours of sport, and then I go to work in the afternoon. And because I work on America time, it suits perfect. I'm saying that because, you know, I've won a lot of awards, as you can see, but I do not spend 12 hours a day in front of the computer. I enjoy my life. I love my job, but I also love my personal life as well and doing things for myself. So make sure you're also taking time out of your life. Do sport. If you don't like sport, you know, walk the dog, water the plants, do whatever it is you like doing, but do not sit in front of the computer for 12 hours a day. It's really terrible for you. Okay, enough about me. We're here to talk about testing. Simple question, are you writing tests? That is not bad. That is good. I know some of you are like, yeah, I know I should be doing more. Okay, hands up. Who is not writing tests at all? One person, two people, three people, four. Okay, you're very honest. That's great. So those of you who are writing tests, what are you using? Are you using Selenium? Anyone, you can talk. It's like, it's fine. Are you using Selenium? No. Okay. Are you using Cypress? Ah, interesting. Okay, good. Any other testing frameworks? Yes. Okay, good. Okay, excellent. So there's a few of them. Okay, brilliant. So let me just ask a few more questions. I want to get to know my audience. JavaScript developers? Lovely. .NET developers? Okay, we are half and half. That's good. So I've made this talk to be 50-50, right? Java developers? Good, I haven't covered you. That's oh, there's one. Sorry. You can take a seat though. Okay, and Python developers? Okay, lovely. I'm not covering you either, but you can still watch this talk and go home and do everything. PHP developers? Good. I think they're all dead. That's good. Okay, so let's continue. Testing. So what is the problem with testing, or what I think the problem is with testing, and you can agree or disagree. When we start a test, kind of like testing is hard, right? It's really hard to get junior developers on board to get them testing. Any other problem getting junior developers on board to testing? Or is it easy, all junior developers are testing? No? What else? What makes testing difficult to get started? Anyone? It's boring. I love that. I'm going to change your life. It takes time to learn, right? And people don't have time. I'm running for 3 hours a day. Well, I don't run. I cycle for 3 hours a day. I'll run for an hour and a half. But yeah, we don't have time because we have, you know, more important things to be doing. It takes time to build. Where we're running our tests on CI, it's like, oh my gosh, you know. So that's another pain. Time is money. The product manager is coming along and saying, I need it shipped now. Just delete the test. Don't even bother writing tests. Just, we want this out in production. It'll work. It'll be fine. Your code is always great. Lovely. And we don't have a very good testing culture, right? We're literally not used to testing. We put testing as an afterthought, something we do after we've finished everything. If I have time, now I'll test, right? what if we had testing as the start of something, as like part of the normal day-to-day? Let me give you the example of Twitter, right? Twitter are doing alt tags on the images. If you're sending a tweet now, you can click that little button and add an alt tag. Who of you are actually putting alt tags on your images? Okay, that's terrible. We need more of you doing that, right? This is really important because it includes other people. Now, I started to do this, and it's like, oh my God, it's taking me now 4 minutes to send a tweet instead of like a couple of seconds. But I'm making my tweets more accessible. Now that I'm in the habit of doing it, I just always add an alt tag to all my images on my tweets, all right? And you can go and check my Twitter feed. Sometimes maybe I might slip, you know, we're not perfect. But getting into the habit of doing something means that then it just becomes normal, right? Like brushing your teeth in the morning. You don't even think about it, it just happens. Testing, we need to fix that culture so that testing just happens and it's not an afterthought. So how do we do that? How do we get more developers to write tests? Do you have the answer? Anyone? Make it fun. I love that. Anyone else? Make it easy. Excellent. Anything else? Make us save time. Yeah, so we can all go running. Excellent. So that's what we're here to do, right? And I'm going to show you Playwright because that's what I believe Playwright does. It makes it easy, it makes it fun, and it makes you save time. So let's have a look. So Playwright testing. First of all, who has heard of Playwright? Not bad. That's about 40%. Excellent. Who is using Playwright in production? 5 people. Don't worry, I'm working on you. I'm working on you. Okay, so Playwright is reliable end-to-end testing for modern web applications. It works in any browser, so you can test on Safari, which always has problems, and any browser, any platform. You can also test iPhone. You can emulate test iPhones and Pixel, etc. One API. Full isolation, which means when you write your test, that test, everything is like isolated. So the next test does not need or can't get anything from the other one. It creates a whole new browser context every time you're writing a test. So network caching, all that kind of stuff, everything is cleared, cookies, state, nothing gets carried forward, okay? So that makes your test less flaky because that test, if it breaks, it has nothing to do with any other test in your whole application. It's just that one test, whatever went wrong in that test. Very fast execution. All tests run in parallel, and they run for free in parallel. We don't have to do anything to make that happen. It's just out of the box. And then powerful tooling, which I'm going to talk about today, and it's multi-language, which is very important, especially if you're working in a company that has a lot of teams, back-end developers, front-end developers, who are using different languages. And then they just have to learn one framework, and then they can still use that language of their choice to write their tests. And everyone's just learning one thing, but writing in the language of their choice. So we support Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, and C#. So you can write your tests in any of those languages. So you're all here today for that. So the Java and Python people, I will not show you any Java and Python code, but everything that I show you, you can do in Java and Python as well. And I will show you JavaScript, TypeScript, and C# today. So I'm going to show you a little bit on the VS Code. Anyone using VS Code? Excellent, beautiful. So this is my favorite way to get started. If you're not using VS Code, that's totally fine. You can still start. It's not too late. But no, you can use the terminal for everything as well. I just like showing in my talk VS Code extension because it's very visual. It's also a very easy way to get started or to show someone very quickly and get them introduced into testing. So with the VS Code extension, you literally search for it. Make sure you find the one that says Microsoft with the blue tick, because there's a couple of other ones, and this is the verified one that we basically keep control of. So once we've installed the extension, then we literally type install Playwright and up in the command panel. And what this does is then say, okay, which browsers do you want to install? Do you want to install Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit, all of them? Or maybe you just want one for whatever reason, that's your choice. And also it asks you, do you want a GitHub Actions workflow? And this is like really cool, right? Because, you know, then obviously I want a GitHub Actions workflow, because once I select that, it's going to create that for me. I'm just going to push my code to the repo, and every time I basically create a pull request or push, it's going to just run my tests. I don't have to do any work. I was creating the documentation for this. I was like saying to the team, but what do they need to do to get it work? And they're like, nothing. I'm like, no, I need to document this. What are the steps? And they're like, it just works. So I'm like, how can it mean it just works? It just works. So literally that's the documentation. Literally you just upload it into the repo and your tests will run on each push or pull request. So that's great. If you're using GitHub, it's amazing. So if you're getting started with C#, then you have to do this create project, .NET new console, cd into that folder, and then add the Microsoft Playwright package, .NET build, and then you'll do that install to install required browsers. Once you've installed, you'll get something like this when you're installing with JavaScript. You'll get the GitHub folder there that I just showed you. You'll get an example test that we created just so you can get tests running very quickly. There's also a test example, which is a to-do demo app, and you can go into that in your own time and play around with that and see all those tests. And then you get the Playwright config, which you very rarely have to touch because everything just works. But if you do need to configure anything, or maybe you want to add mobile testing, for example, then that's where you configure that. If you're in C#, then basically after your install, you'll install NUnit and Microsoft Playwright NUnit. Then you create a test file and basically run the test. So pretty easy. Running tests, you can run all tests, a set of tests, a single test, and tests, as I said, run in parallel. So they just, whatever test is ready. So it's not like in, one test number and then number 2 and number 3. They all run in parallel. And it's super fast. So I'm going to show you running the example test that comes when you install using the VS Code extension. And you can see I just pressed that little green button of play. And bang, up comes the browser window, right? You missed it. I know. Sorry. I'll do it again. OK, so here we go. We're playing. And it was just a very simple test. So there's not a lot to see. And that's the basically example test. So if you want to just install and show someone, this is what you're going to get. And this is how you're able to demo that to someone and say, this is the test running. If you want to run the test in headed mode in C#, then you'll just have to add this code, which is basically putting headless equals false, and then the slow-mo equals 100. And then you'll be able to run that in headless mode with .NET Test. So live debugging, I love this feature in VS Code where you can actually live debug. So, I mean, we never have bugs, right? But the one time that you might have a bug, you're able to fix very easily in VS Code. So again, this is just the example test that I have, and I'm just going to walk through it. So the text equals get started. I'm just going to change to star. And I'll run that test, and it's going to break, right? And it says to me, error, there's a strict mode violation. And basically, Playwright found 3 possibilities of the word star and didn't know which one to click. So it's like, I don't know which one you wanted. So I can create a breakpoint right here in the code, and then I can run in debug mode. Once I do that, in the browser window, it's going to select what Playwright was telling me. These are the 3 things that have star. Star appears in all of these words. Star appears in getting started. It appears in get started, and it appears in the word star. So then I can play around with this, and I can literally say, all right, instead of star, let's put started. And it's going to say, oh, there's 2 started. There's get started, and there's getting started in the footer. So this is not going to work either. And I can play around with this. Like I write the word Playwright, and there's like 12 of these, right? So this is showing me how many possibilities there are of these selectors. So get started will fix that test, but as you can see, I can play around and see it, run that test, step through it, and now the test will pass because I have the right selector. To run tests in C# in debug mode, you'll use the pw debug equals 1.NET run. And this is one I actually did in .NET, where what it opens up is a little bit different, right? So this is going to open up the inspector, so it's a little bit different to what I showed you in VS Code. Also, if you're using the terminal, this is what you'll get. You'll get this inspector window, and you're able to run through the tests like this. And you can see as we go through each one. So this test broke on the listen later, listen together, sorry, on the listen together text. So as I stepped through one by one, I didn't create a breakpoint in this. I was just stepping through and seeing it happen. And you'll see down at the bottom, that's the log that's happening. And you can see the explore there with the text equals listen together. So as I was debugging this, I'm like, OK, this listen together is not here. What's going on? And you can play around and say, right, OK, text equals room code. I can see that one shows up. I can see that in my window. But listen together, it's kind of like coming up in the corner, but it's not on the page. There is one down at the bottom, but it's together. It's not listen together. So you can kind of see what selectors are available to as you're clicking along here. And then I can see down here the error it's giving me. It's waiting for the selector text equals listen together. The selector resolves to hidden h1 tab index equals -1. Attempting to click the action, it's waiting for the element to be visible, enabled and stable, but the element is not visible, so it's waiting. And then Playwright said, I don't know where this is because it's just not there. So this is a way of kind of like figuring out, where is that selector? I can't see it on the page. So if I can't see it on the page, Playwright can't see it on the page, and then Playwright can't click it. So that's a way of kind of, testing that your selectors are there and debugging using the terminal or using C# as well. So locators, what are locators? You've just seen a couple of locators there on the code. Locators are a way to find elements on the page at any moment with built-in auto-waiting and retriability. That means Playwright will wait for that to be ready. It's not just going to click it. It's going to wait until it's ready on the page to be clicked. And then if it's not working, whatever, it'll retry automatically, and it will try again after a certain time. So you don't need to set timeouts unless your code is really bad and your JavaScript takes so long to load, it's going to take 10 seconds, and then you need to do that. And they're nodding because they're like, I've written that code, right? Yeah, so write better code. So because Playwright is fast, I think it's 3 seconds is the default, but you can change the default in the config if you wanted to. But yeah, basically write better code because Playwright will wait for it to be ready unless it's like way too long and it's like, this app is terrible, right? Locators are written like this. So you could say const get started equals page.locator, text equals get started. So the locator, and then you've got the selector. I'm using a text selector here. You could use a CSS selector. You could use a role selector. You could use XPath stuff if you really want to. So there's a lot of options there. You can put IDs, test IDs in there. So you can choose which one you want. And basically choose the best selectors, right? The text, that text shouldn't change, and that's what the user will see, right? If you're using CSS classes, maybe it makes sense to use them. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. If you're using Tailwind, for example, then you're going to have a real hard time putting all those classes in. So maybe that's a good idea then to create a test ID and use the test ID instead. So the same with in .NET, you'll have say this is a page locator with a header, and inside the header there's a navigation, and I'm expecting it to have this array of featured podcasts available on powered.net. So it requeries those given selectors, and it waits until it has all 4 elements with the given texts. Web first assertions, there are a lot of assertions, so you can go through to be checked, to be disabled, to be editable, to be empty, enabled, focused, to have class, to have count, to have ID, to have JS property, to have screenshot, etc., etc. Very similar, as you can see, if you're working in C#, pretty much the same, just sometimes it's capitalized, and then you just have async in the end. So to be checked async, to be disabled async, to be enabled async, to have value async, etc., etc. So make sure you're using assertions, really, really important, because this is what is going to create that await for you and do everything as it should do. Okay, now I'm going to introduce you to my best friend. Are you ready? Meet codegen. Codegen will generate your tests by recording your actions, right? You said you want tests to be fun and you want tests to be easy and you want to save time. This is codegen. Now, did you go to the GitHub Copilot talk earlier? Anyone? Yeah, so this is kind of similar-ish. GitHub Copilot is amazing. I think it's great. Codegen is great. Obviously, it's AI and we need to make it better. Well, it's kind of AI, but it's we need to make it better. We will make it better, but I like it for getting started. I think it's really easy. So let me show you how it works. So again, this is using the VS Code extension, and I'm literally going to click that button there that says Record New. This is in the testing sidebar. So when you first install Playwright, you have the little kind of sidebar testing icon. It probably is hard to figure that that's a testing icon, but it is. And when you click there, you'll get this testing sidebar. And then you'll have that Show Browser, which we see to open the browser. We got Pick Selector to pick a selector. And then we've got Record New. So we're going to click the Record New. So once I click Record New, I get a browser window, but also in VS Code, I get a test-1 spec file already created for me. So now this is created in my project. So I'll go to a website. I'm going to go to the NDC website, and you'll see that code was just written. Await page, go to NDC Oslo. So let's, accept those cookies. All good. We love cookies. So that's accepted, and it's written that page. Text, all good equals click. I'm going to click on the heading here. Now, the user wouldn't normally click on the header, but I just want to record that because I'm going to change it later. And I'll go down and have a look. What's going on this page? What do I want to test? I mean, join the NDC party. Yes, I want to go here. So I'm going to learn more. This is the only thing I'm interested in this conference. So I'll click on the Tuesday event. Let's see. I might sign up for that one. That looks good. And this will open up another browser window. And I can test across multi-domains because this, as you can see, is a different domain. I can see that community Tuesday. And I have no idea what that button says, but I'm sure it says sign up. So I clicked it. And then I'm like, the Ford, who's going on this cruise, on the Fjord cruise? Yes, I'm going on this. Excellent. So I'm going to see you there. I signed up for this as well. So again, I can check that that button works and brings me to the page. So I went to another page. And the NDC party, there's no sign up for that 'cause it's free, but the pubconf, right? So I'll sign up for that. And then I've gone to another page, the pubconf page, and I'll click on that, just on that text to make sure it's there. I could buy the tickets and continue that testing. And then I can go back to the first one and I'll say, right, I'm going to open this chat here and I'm going to say to the conference organizers that I basically really want to come to the party. So I'm going to type this in here. I would love to come to the party. And I'm going to send this. This is an iframe here as a chat. I'm going to send this. Oh, and they're like, yay, you can come. And they're like, no, you have to fill out your name. Oh, God. Here I go. So I'll fill out the name. And then I kind of went, oh, no, you're not getting my email. So, and there's my test done. So literally, just by clicking around, as a user would normally do, I have now got all this code generated for me, right? That's just super cool. This is the test, literally as it is, right? And you can see all those, everything that I have clicked through. You can see page 1 was, so page is actually the first page, and page 1 is actually the second page, if you think of it that way. So every domain there is a different page, and you can like go back between those pages, and you can test across those multiple domains. So if you had those payment procedure stuff on different domains, then you can test your application throughout those without any extra work. You can test iframes without any extra work. It just works, as you just seen there. So it just uses the frame locator, iframe, and it will check everything. So that's my test with very little work, and that's how I get to do 3 hours sport a day. See? Easy. And I can run that, and you can see it's running, and it's going to go to those domains. It's going to check it. It's super fast, but it checked everything, and happy days, right? It's cool, right? Yeah, are you convinced now? Yeah, kind of. All right, so this is, yeah, let me show you this, because when I actually ran this, it didn't really work. The test broke, because sometimes, you know, it's just clicking around, and sometimes it will work, and then you go, oh, but sometimes it doesn't work fully, and sometimes you got to like adapt your code a little bit and improve your code, right? Because yes, we didn't do any work, let's make it better. So what happened here was, it kind of like looked for that iframe, and the locator was text area, and it was clicking on it, and it was like, no, this is not working. This is wrong. So I'm like, okay, what did I do? What went wrong? So we can have a look in here. So we know it's the iframe. The iframe is the that chat thing, and we can go along and we can check on the first page what we need to select. So what is actually what we need to do? So we can pick the selector, and we can say, right, the selector, as I'm clicking along here, the SVG, no, we don't want that. And we can say, oh, look, there's a div there with an ID. So that's kind of the one I really want. That's a better select. And I can click on that. Once I click on that, it's going to save it in this pick selector box. And then I can just press enter, and I now have it. And I can paste it in here. And now I have a better selector for my chat. And this is now going to work. So as I went through, I'll run this, and you'll see that it works. So sometimes, as I said, sometimes you might have to go over your code and just check a couple of things. Now if I go back, the test works, right? It's all green, so that's great. Did it actually work? Do I really know? Well, let's go to the first page. You can see my name, Debbie's, on that page, right? So that did work. So I fixed my little selector problem. And now there's a couple of things I can do to improve this, right? Because the codegen does not do assertions for me. It's just doing clicks. And you saw I clicked on the heading, and a user would not click on that heading. But I did that because I'm just lazy and I wanted to save time. Because now I can transfer that from a click to a assertion. And actually this one is a click, so that should stay. The text is all good, so that should stay. But this one has text, okay, NDC Oslo, that's the H1. And that one is an assertion. We wouldn't be clicking that. So we want to say expect that locator and you can see everything that we can have to be checked, to be close to be defined, to be disabled, to be empty, to be enabled, etc., etc. And we go down until we find the one that we want. And I just want it to be basically visible on the page. So I can select that. I want the H1 to always be visible. And then I can go along and say, okay, what else? So learn more, we clicked on that, that's good. We expect the page to have URL, that's good. The next page, we want it to have that event to pop up onto the next domain. And sign up, yeah, we want to do that. But the same H1, right? The H1 has the text of Community Tuesday. That's an assertion. Let's change that from a click to be an assertion. So we want that to be visible on the page every time we go there. And then we can go along to the next one. And the next one is that start. I cannot say this. Pamelidigan. So yeah, we want to make sure that's clicked. That's cool. Again, another H1. That shouldn't be a click event. That should be an assertion. So let's go and expect that one. And we can go and add more on this, right? I'm just doing a basic example here, but you might want to also check that the image is there. The image has the alt tag on the page, that the button has an area label. You can do all that testing as well, right? But this is just a simple way of taking your code generated and literally going through it step by step and just improving it and adding those assertions in. So here we've got an image with the alt equals pubconf, because that was actually an image. It wasn't a text, but it has an alt tag, so that's perfect. So we just want it to be visible. It's already testing. It has the alt tag, so that's great. And then we have our iframe that we fixed, and we put the right locator in there, so that's going to work. And we're also checking that we typed in, we put caps log, and you can see what I filled in. I used the fill, and I got, I would love to come to the party, so that's good. And then we clicked on the button. It only found one button in that frame, so that was in that iframe, so that works perfect. And then we've got a locator of placeholder equals name, and we want to fill it with Debbie. And there's my test, right? Again, we could continue on and then press that and see what happens. And I don't know if they email me back, we could test that. But that's our test done, and we can rerun that test as we finished changing it to assertions and visually see, does that test still run? And I can go back to that first one, and my name Debbie's is in there, so that test works. I can go home happy, and everyone is going to get paid and yeah, have more free time on a Friday. So if you want to use codegen in C#, then you'll basically use this code here to run it, or if you're using the terminal as well. And it's a little bit different then in VS Code and using the terminal or using C#, but the same. Two windows will pop up instead, right? Instead of having VS Code, you'll have two windows, the browser window and this inspector window. And from here, you can just go to the website. I'm going to test a different website this time. I'll test the .NET Podcasts website. So I put that in, and you can see my C# code there. It's awaiting page, go to async. Await the page locator has text. So again, it's doing the same thing, just in C# instead of in JavaScript. And as I click around this site, it's going to basically start recording all the actions I do. So let's take let's open this one here, this podcast. We'll click on this one, for example. We can see, like, as I was testing this, some of the images were broken. So I was like, oh, look, I found this problem. Like, I don't know if they fixed it, but you can check. But yeah, as I was actually just writing this test for this talk, I was like, wow, look, there's an issue here. There's a problem here I've come across without even writing the test. It'll test the image alt is there. So that's good. It has an alt tag. So as you can see, as I'm running through this, for the first time, I'm actually kind of seeing if there's any kind of issues, and then I'm creating that test, and I'm able to then like go along here, inspect it, find out what went wrong in this. This was a case where they had the image alt tag was coming from the back end. It was the same as the image name, and then if you had like, you know, a little gap in between it or something, then it didn't work. So simple things to fix. So that's the tests running in codegen. Do you like my friend codegen? Yeah, it's kind of cool, isn't it? Yeah, we give codegen a clap. I love it. I think it's great. We're going to try and put web first assertions into codegen. It's in the works, so it's not going to be there yet, but look forward to that, because I want to be able to, like, you know, click on that header and it knows that, you know, actually you're not going to ever click there. That's not a click event. Let's make that an assertion and expect it to be visible. That's my hope. It's going to happen. Just takes time, but for now it's a pretty good start to get things going. So let me show you some reports, right? This does only work for JavaScript, TypeScript. So this is the show reports. It's a HTML reporter. We don't have it for C# yet, but a lot of people have asked for it, so we may have it. So just watch that space. NPX Playwright show report. This is something you cannot do in VS Code extension. You need to use the terminal. So we've got all the way up to here without ever even opening a terminal, which is pretty cool. But now, if you want to report, you need to do this. So when I do this, I'll get basically a report. And let me show you basically, as I write the command, the difference now is that it's actually going to run all the tests on all browsers. So VS Code normally just runs it on one, because it makes it quicker when you're basically just writing your tests. But once you run it with the terminal, it's going to run on all three browsers. And it's running the two tests I have, that example test and the test I created. And that's why you're seeing 6 passed, right? So it's really fast to run two tests on 3 different browsers. So 6 passed very quickly. And then I'll just show the report. So the report opens up here on a 127.0.01, and I can just like click it or I copy it over into my browser window, and here is my report. So the report will tell me everything that happened in my test, and you can see it goes through step by step. So I could click on each one, I can see which tests I've passed, how many flaky tests, how many failed tests, on which browser it was run on, how long it took, and basically like, you know, see at all times what's going on. Now the trace files, we can do with npx playwright test -- trace on. This is if you want to run it just locally because you just want to see the trace files. I'm going to show you what the trace files are, so bear with me if you have no idea what I'm talking about. But the trace files normally would be run on CI/CD, and it would normally run on the first retry. So if on continuous integration your test fails, it'll go, oh, something happened there, let me run that again, and then it will record that trace, and then it will run it again, and then you'll have that trace on that retry, and you'll be able to go through it, debug it, and see what happens. If you're using C#, then you'll just have to add this code in here to basically get it to run. So you'll say screenshots true, snapshots true, sources true, and have the path trace.zip. Set that up, and then basically you can drag and drop it onto the trace website, and then you'll be able to see the Playwright trace. It's like a PWA, so it's local. It's not like nobody can see it unless you host it yourself, but it's basically a local PWA, but you can send that zip file to anyone and they can basically open it and see it. I'm going to show you back to the JavaScript version because this is what you get when you do it locally with npx, and you'll get, I don't know if you can see it there, but there's a little kind of like icon with 2 bars, and it's like, it's a terrible icon because it doesn't like tell me that that's a trace, but that's the icon for the trace, and if you click on that, will open the trace. So let me show you. So this little icon here, I can click on, or I can actually just go into the actual test itself, and I'll see a nicer image that's easier to click. So I'm going to go to the test that we created with codegen because I want to see this one because it's more fun than the example. So this is the trace viewer. And what I can see here is I can go along a timeline, and I can see absolutely everything that happened in my test at every single point in time. For every event, that locator text equals all good, that the click one, the H1 there, this is my click event. You can see the different colors change depending on if it's a click or if it navigated. And I can see the whole screen, the website of what's happening there. And I can basically just hover over here. This is waiting for an event. Then it has text equals community Tuesday. As I go along here, it's what was the next one? It was the frame was received on the new page. And you can see now I have a new page underneath, right? So I can basically just scroll down in the timeline and I can see that other page and go back to the first page. I can go back and select the next event. We went down to the Fjord cruise. I can go down to that page, see what was happening at that time. And then we have the pub conf one. I can go down to that page and see what happened there. And basically see at all time over those multi-domains, I can see a whole thing of what happened throughout the test in my own time, scrolling along as slow and as fast as I want to go. But I can also go along here and click on every single action. So I can stop and say, right, what happened here? I can see what's happening on the page. I can see everything's loaded. So here the text equals all good. You can see that red dot where it was clicked. That's the action. What happened before that and what happened after? So the cookie box went away when I clicked on it. So I can actually see that that's exactly what should have happened. This is great. And again, I can click through every single action and you can see that it's moving, right? It's scrolling there, right? So it's not an image, okay? This is not an image that you're seeing. This is an actual DOM snapshot you're seeing. So something to take into account. You can see like the animations happening there, right? It's a full-on DOM snapshot. And yeah, I can click through all this action, before, after, what happened. This is great for debugging, so if you have any errors, you can go through this and you can really understand everything that happened in that test and why it wasn't working. So again, going through here, you can see the call on the other side, the locator.press, the locator.fill, the locator.click. You can see the time. You can see this is like, here's my pop-up box came up, and you can go over here. There's the value Debbie that was added in, so it gives me all this detail. The selector was the iframe, and before and after what happened. So you can see my name came up there and after, but before my name wasn't there. And I can actually type in it, right? Because it's a DOM snapshot. So it's actually editable, so I can literally type in here, right? Which is kind of cool. I just think that's cool. Yeah, so it's fun. And then you got the console. So if I had any console errors, I could see them all in here. Here's there's an error here, so I can see, right? There was something went wrong, so they should fix that. Then there's a network request. I can see the network requests that are happened. There's like 2 aborted images or something going on there. So again, I could report that to them. And I can see the source code of the test. So even though I don't or didn't write that test, I can see the actual source code and actually then send it to the developer and say, hey, look, you missed this. I see the error. And you can see it was run on Chromium and is mobile false. This looks a bit bad because I just zoomed in so much for the talk, but normally it looks much better, but you can see exactly how that's run. So that's the trace viewer. It's really, really amazing for debugging and really, really helps. Now, if you want to configure a test for mobile Safari, which is basically really easy, this is, did I do the right one? I'm recording the video here. And no, this looks like the wrong video, damn. So yeah, if you're going to configure them for mobile, basically what you do is you go into the config. Oh, I recorded a new test, that's it, because the test on mobile just passed, and I want to show you something different. So I'm going to record a new test that just clicks the menu, right? So this is a new test. It's just going to basically test the menu. I play that, I run it, and this works. It's perfect. Okay, very simple test, just testing functionality. Now if I want to test this on mobile, right? I want to make sure, because, menu navigation's on mobile, just always a disaster. So I can go into the Playwright config file. So here you can see it down here. And it's already like there. So I can just literally scroll down and you can see it's commented out by default. So I've got the mobile Safari and I'm just going to test on mobile Safari. And I could also test on mobile Chrome, on Edge, on devices Pixel 5, on everything, right? But let's just do mobile Safari. And now when I run this test, because I'm using the VS Code extension, it's going to take this one, it's going to run that one. I could configure it to basically only run to run all of them if I go in and configure that, but I just want to run this one. When I'm in terminal and you run test, it's going to run every single test. So just keep that in mind. If you're using the extension, it's going to run just that last one you did, and use the terminal if you want to see every single test and get that report. So I want to see the report, and you can see there that test has failed, right? So I've got a problem with my test. Actually, 2 of them have failed. So the first one failed and the second one failed. So let's go and inspect why that failed and see how we can improve that. So it said like strict mode violation on the iframe. That was the first one we looked at earlier. So I could go and debug that, or I can go in here and see this one failed, which is has text tickets cannot be found, right? So this fails on mobile, and we'll have a look. And you will see like there's like, once it fails, it stops the trace, right? I couldn't go any further. So it recorded up to the point that said like, I have no idea, I can't continue, I'm broken, you need to fix me. And it's like on this text here, right? Has text tickets is not there. The selector resolved to hidden. It's attempting to click the action. And I can inspect this, right? Because this is a DOM snapshot. So it gives me all the access to Chrome developer tools, just like any website. So now I can go along here and I can start understanding what's going on in my website. And I can kind of see, right, well, I get this, right? Because has tickets is not there, because my mobile menu is obviously different to my, other menu. So it's not there. It's hidden behind this hamburger menu, okay? And I didn't tell Playwright to click that hamburger menu, so it's basically not going to find it. And I can, search through and kind of understand the code, because maybe I didn't write that code. As I'm writing that test, I'm kind of saying, yeah, okay, so that tickets are there. It's just, it's stuck under a nav menu, right? So I can now go along and fix that test, write a better test that includes that. Any idea how you would fix this test, how you would actually make the test work for the mobile menu? Anyone? No ideas? Check for what kind of menu you have. I like that. It's good. Anyone else? No? Very easy. We can use isMobile. So you can basically pass in the isMobile fixture and say, if it's a mobile, I want you to await the page locator navigation menu, because you need to click that menu, and then you can go and do the has text workshops or has text agenda or whatever. But you need to click that menu each time. So when I'm writing this test now, I need to basically go back, and every time I need to put if is mobile, you need to click on the hamburger menu, because that's how the mobile functionality works. The menu never stays open like on the desktop. So I've got to tell Playwright, if you're on a mobile, click the hamburger menu, then go and click that. If you're on a mobile, click this. If you're on a mobile, click this. Or we can say if you're not a mobile, do etc. Right? So you can use whatever. And then when I run that test, you can see it clicked it and it opened up and it clicked it and opened up, clicked it, opened up, and my test works. Right? So that's an easy way of making sure things work and testing across mobile and across desktop. Very quickly, I'll show you another simple example there in C# when I was running the .NET podcast one, and we found an error with the, you saw it earlier in the video, with the listen together text, right? And as I was searching along here, and I'm like, I did not understand what was going on, and I started using the developer tools to kind of figure out what was happening in this scenario. So this is, like I said, it's a really great way of debugging, but also understanding the code. And in this one, it's like, okay, listen together, the text is not there. I went through everything. I was like, why are you not there? Like, what is going on? And I can see it's actually here, right? The text is in the H1 class is there. So I've got a H1. The test is broken because looking for the H1 and the H1's not there. On mobile, it is not there. On desktop, it is. I can see it in DevTools, and I found a display none. Damn it. What developer decided to, on mobile, put a display none on the H1 heading? So I tried to understand, what did this developer do? Why would they do that? And how can I fix this? So yeah, I went to the actual desktop version, and I could see that listen together text, that H1 is there. And I'm like, okay, so it's there, and then you've got like that other thing underneath it. But if you look at the, when I put display none on, that text is there, but a H1 is at the bottom of the page, right, in the middle of the page. That's not the right order. So this developer basically decided, okay, flex is too difficult, and this is putting it down the bottom of the page. Doesn't look good, so let's just remove it from the page. Yay, solve the problem, I go home. And then Playwright went, this is not good. Okay, so it's a great way of finding your problems that your developers have, put into production and gotten away with. So keep that in mind. So you can run your tests on CI with GitHub Actions. We talked about that earlier. This is basically the actions that it creates. So this is done for you. You don't need to do anything with this unless you're doing component testing. If you're doing component testing, there's another run that you'll put in there with the component testing, and you'll add that to it. It will run your end-to-end test and then your component tests. And then you get something like this on CI in your actions, and you'll have your failed ones, your passed ones, and you'll be able to go in those and check your workflows and go down, and you'll see there on that failed test, I've got that Playwright report. I can then click into that report, and I've got that trace file. I can download that trace file. I can use I need to use the Playwright server to actually serve it up, so just keep that in mind. And then I'll run that and figure out what went wrong, or send it to the developer and say, fix this, this broke. So yeah, component testing. Anyone writing components in Vue? Yeah, a couple of you, not too many. React? Oh, lovely. Svelte? Nobody? Angular? Yeah, a few years. Okay, sorry, we don't have Angular support. So yeah, component testing. Maybe we will do one day, but component testing is run using Vite. So this is why we don't have Angular, because Vite is not supported by Angular yet. So if you were doing component testing, you need to install this npm init playwright at latest --ct for component testing. And this will basically allow you to write components and test components. Now, very simply, you can basically just you create your components and run them. I'm going to test just the message prop there. I'll run that, and you can see that this kind of comes up in the browser, so I can visually see my components rendering on the page. I can remove that prop, and then I can run that test, and I can also visually see that that prop removed. There's nothing there. The test broke. It tried. It was like, where is this prop? And it kind of said, hey, I expected Vite and Playwright, and I got nothing. So, what do you want me to do here? So I can add that back in. That test will work. And I can go through each component one by one, and basically just press the play button, open the code. This is testing a slot, for example, in Vue. Test that the count is included in the vslot count. And this will come up, and there it's beautiful. It's included there. And then I can test that the count component actually counts. So this one should be clicked. Every time it clicks, it goes up 1. And bang, that count is 2. It's so fast that you missed it, I know. You can slow it down if you want to. But basically, this is a great way of creating components and then writing some simple tests alongside it. It doesn't take long to do that, so I suggest you do test your components. So then we've got the VS Code extension. So Playwright testing, right? You've got your VS Code extension, which I showed you. You've got codegen to auto-generate your tests, right? You've seen that. You can run in debug mode. You've got locators and frame locators, right? So you can test across iframes. You saw the show reports. You saw how to view trace files and debug your applications. Auto-wait is built in for all actions, right? So there's no need to set timeout calls. Tests run in parallel for free. It's super fast. Multiple browsers and multiple devices. We saw that. And it's also got intercepting requests, follows all redirects, bypasses cores, and manages cookies. So that's kind of cool. And basically, I just have really kind of one question for you. Are you ready to Playwright? Have I convinced you? Yeah. Seriously, yeah, just tell me, yes, this is cool, or no. You can be honest. Are you ready to Playwright? I love that. That's amazing. So my name is Debbie O'Brien, as I said. My email is debbieobrien@microsoft.com. I never really read emails, but if you want to send me an email, you can. The docs are playwright.dev. We've got a Twitter account, YouTube. We will have more video content coming. There is a community Slack channel, so if you do have any problems, just put them in the Slack channel. Playwright is open source. It's completely open source and free. It is by Microsoft, so we just have a lot of support and we can do a lot of stuff, but it's a community-driven project. So if you have a feature request, something you want, maybe you want Angular support, right? Then you create that feature request. If that gets upvoted, we do it. Everything runs through GitHub. Everything is in the open. You can visually see everything. And it's getting better and better each time. So I want something like the watch mode for components. So as you're building your test, it watches, and then we'll just kind of rebuild that instead of pressing play, because that extra second I just don't want to do, right? So that's kind of other stuff that we will work on. Component testing is experimental. So, play around with it and let us know your feedback. In general, I would love to hear your thoughts on Playwright. If you're using it in a company and have a lot of tests, we're building a case study page, so come and talk to me. I will be on that Fjord cruise because I booked my ticket. So I will be there tonight. If anyone wants to talk about Playwright on the cruise, please come up to me. I know it's the end of the day. You're welcome to stay back and ask questions. You're welcome to ask questions here. We've got a couple of minutes before we should finish. But I will also be here all day tomorrow. I'm not here Friday, but feel free to come and reach me, if not on Twitter, Debs_O'Brien. Thank you very much for your time. And if you have any questions, just put your hand up. Thank you. I know everyone's like, beer, I just want beer. What time is beer, right? Any questions? Yes?
How is the Shadow DOM support?
Yes, there is Shadow DOM support.
Both for components and for normal
Yes.
tests?
Look in the selectors documentation, I think it's in, or selectors or location documentation, or just search Shadow DOM, but it's there, yes. Yes?
Does the mobile testing have support for orientation?
Yeah, you can use the viewport size. So you can change the viewport. You can just use test use and then put in whatever viewport you want. Sorry? I think there is. I'm just showing more GitHub, but there's a lot of, we're implementing a lot of Azure stuff. But don't quote me on everything Azure because I don't do a lot of Azure work. But yes, there is support on Azure. And it's in the Azure Static Web Apps template by default now. Yes?
What is the best way to intercept the WebSocket communication?
You want me to answer that right now?
In Playwright.
Slack channel.
Okay.
Yeah, no, check the documentation. There's some documentation on WebSockets. I haven't played around with that. If that documentation isn't good enough, chat to us on Slack, and we'll improve that or find out a way. But I haven't tested myself. But good question. Thanks. Anyone else? Yes, down here.
How about scenarios with the users where you need to log into the application? So authentications. And
Authentication. Yeah, so there's a great documentation on authentication that you can check out with some examples. Obviously, authentication is hard, right? Because it depends on what you're authenticating. If it's like, two-factor and needs a mobile phone to test that. So I don't have all the answers on authentication. But definitely reach out to us and tell us your use case and what you're trying to do, and we can try and point you in the right direction. Thanks. Anyone else? Going once. Oh, over here. I can't see, there's a big light. Oh, he's standing up. Sorry, yes. All the way over there.
So if you have lots of tests, and it's testing like end to end, and you change one thing, how much work is it to change all the tests?
What do you want to change? What are we talking about?
Okay, say you have a login that you're testing, and that's something you got to do in all your tests because you got to be authorized.
Okay.
And you change something in the login things that breaks all your tests. What do you do?
So you shouldn't have any test that depends on another test, right? So all your tests should run independent. And if you have something like a login, you can use it before each hook. So before each is going to log in, so you could have all those tests on the one page.
Yeah.
You don't have them on the one page. If you have them separate, you can use fixtures or page object model, and then you just have that one test that basically is doing that. So you're going to have to fix it only in one place. A good question. Anyone else? Yes? Not so much. I don't think we recommend it. As a .NET developer, I don't really can't go into whys on that. But but yeah, NUnit is the way forward. But maybe we might have in the future XUnit, but at the moment we don't have that support. Anyone else? Going once. Going twice. Yes, it is beer time. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. I'm around all day tomorrow. Thank you for your time.